Hey guys, it's Archon, and I'm so excited to be able to share with you guys my first impressions of the Reaper of Souls beta. That's right, last night Blizzard sent out friends and family invites. I'm not sure which one, I guess I'm a friend. Beta invites for Reaper of Souls, and I gotta tell you guys, it is amazing. If you're one of those people that's like, Reaper of Souls isn't going to be that good, I'm not even going to buy it, you better stop watching this video, because guess what? As soon as you see how awesome Reaper of Souls is, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. You're going to have to buy it. Keep in mind, the beta is not the final product, and a lot of this will change before release. First of all, the beta overall feels very polished. It does not feel like an early beta, but leave it up to Blizzard to make even their betas feel extremely polished. I wouldn't say that Reaper of Souls is ready to release. They're still changing some things, adding a lot of features, and of course we know the auction house isn't being removed until March, so I don't know, maybe April, but the beta feels really good. I streamed the beta for about 4 or 5 hours last night. I'll stream some more today, and I'm probably going to be streaming it most days for the next few weeks. I'm ridiculously addicted. It's bad for me because I have things to do, and I'm probably not going to get them done, but I don't care. I got to play some Reaper of Souls. And when I first started playing, I decided to roll a wizard on adventure mode. I haven't done the story yet because I just really wanted to get into farming some adventure mode. I'm really excited about those Nephilim rifts and bounties, and I wanted to play the wizard because everyone else is playing the Crusader, and I want to learn some wizard builds kind of for selfish reasons. I decided to start on master difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty you can play on before you hit level 70 on any character. I didn't know how good my gear would do in Reaper of Souls, even though it was pretty amazing gear in old D3. I'd borrowed it from AMJ before I copied my character over to the beta server, but I actually rolled faces. For at least the first few levels, my gear was really OP. Even on Master, I was able to tear through enemies. But as I leveled up, enemies quickly became much harder. In Reaper of Souls, as you level up, enemies level up with you. By the time I got to 63, 64, it didn't feel that OP anymore. And by the time I got to 68, 69, it was just some mediocre gear. However, I was able to replace a lot of pieces along the way. The gear really scales up really quickly as you're leveling. The first build I tried was just something I threw together really quickly with some of the spells I really wanted to try out. I really wanted to play a Frost Wizard. I was excited they brought back Frozen Orb from D2, so I used that and Glacial Spike, which is a new rune on Magic Missile, and I was just a Frost Wizard. The rest of my skills were just to buff my damage, and in Reaper of Souls, I found out pretty quickly, if you try to cast a spell that costs your resource and you don't have enough, it automatically defaults to your primary attack. So I was able to just hold down right click. If I could cast a Frozen Orb, I would, and if not, I would cast a Glacial Spike. So it was kind of like easy mode Frost Wizard, just opponent face, and that worked pretty well while I was OP because it was easy to start doing a lot of damage very quickly. On a side note, some of the new passives are really cool. I especially like the wizard passive Dominance, which makes it so anytime you kill an enemy, you get a shield, and it stacks up to 10 times. It was cool because you could rely on that instead of having to rely on life on hit or some other kind of healing. The leveling happened much quicker than I thought it would. I got from 60 to 70 in less than 4 hours. The first few levels especially probably had a lot to do with my gear, but the leveling was a lot faster than I thought it would be. The first thing that I noticed that I was really happy about was that the drop chance on items is really low. You see very few items. In fact, it seemed to me that you see even less items than you do on the console, but it might just be because on the console you're seeing everyone's loot, but I was very excited. I was hoping it would be this low, and really it's fairly rare to see a rare item. However, when items do drop, they're typically really good. The smart drop system seems to work pretty well, so most of the items you're getting are for your class, and you never find an item that just seems useless. You can always think of someone who would use that item, because it's divided between primary stats and secondary stats. All the primary stats are useful, and you never get an item with like dexterity and int on it. They're always tailored for a certain build or a certain player, and so if you get a stack of 10 items while you're leveling, chances are 1 or 2 of them are going to be an upgrade for you, which is really cool. I was also worried that there'd be too many legendary drops and that you would just be overwhelmed with legendaries, but I only got 2 while I was playing, and they were both really good, so I'm excited about that. You could really pick up all rares, whites, and blues and not be going back to town that much. I was only picking up rares because I'm lazy and I like to fight instead of going back to town, but I know a lot of people are picking up blues so they can get crafting mats. The crafting mats from 1 to 60 are the same, and I was actually getting iridescent tears all the way up to 70. I don't know if that's going to stay in the game, but you do get new crafting mats starting at level 60. I started out doing bounties, which are random quests at different areas. I was just doing them around Act 5, so I could kind of explore that without going through the story yet, and they were really fun. You get a random boss to kill, or a random event, or a dungeon to clear, and then you get a reward for completing the bounty, which is in the form of a Heraldric cache, which spills out into a bunch of crafting mats and items that you could pick up. And then if you do all 5 bounties in an area, then you get an even bigger cache, and if you do all 25, you get an even bigger one. Bounties also give you blood shards, which you can take to a merchant in town to gamble with. You can choose any item slot or just a cache, and it'll have random items in the cache or random stats on the item. So you might get something really good, or you might get something really bad. And while you're doing bounties, and while you're just killing mobs in general, rift keystones will drop, and then you can use those rift keystones to open up Nephilim rifts. But what I found was the rift keystone drops are way too frequent. I think they're going to have to tone it down. After I did 5 bounties, I was able to do about 10 Nephilim rift runs before running out of rift keystones. I still have some in my inventory, so it seems like they're dropping a little too frequently. Also, gems. Marquise gems start dropping right at level 60. That's right, your Marquise gems not going to be worth that much. And then Imperial gems start dropping when you get closer to level 70. The new highest gem is Royal gem, which you do have to craft, and you have to level up your artisan to level 12 before you can do that. Another thing that really surprised me was the quality of the new zones, monsters, and events, especially the new monsters. I was pretty excited about some of the monsters they announced at BlizzCon, but I was just blown away. There's so many new monsters, and they're so much more fun to kill than the old monsters. I don't know why anyone's going to farm story mode Act 1 through 4 when they can just do Act 5 or bounties and Nephilim rifts, because the new monsters are amazing. The abilities are really dynamic. There's a few that have telegraphing system that show where their attacks are going to land. All the attacks are really cool, and the events are really cool as well. They were working on something called Nephilim Trials, which are like these little challenges. They didn't make it into the launch of Reaper of Souls, but they turned some of them into events, and the events, at least in Act 5, are much more exciting than events we've had in the past. And same with the purple monsters. There are actually some purple monsters that are fun to kill, and probably the best example is the Realm Walker. The Realm Walker is this giant guy with a portal on his head that spits out demons as you're fighting him, and then when you kill the Realm Walker, you can go inside the portal in his head, and it's a brand new dungeon in his head, and you can just kill stuff. There's portals in there that spit out elite packs, and then you can leave when you're done. But it was a really cool idea. I'm so glad they implemented that into the game. Also, the elite packs are a lot more fun to fight because they've added a lot of new affixes. They've added Orbiter, which makes these little lightning things orbit around you. They've added Wormhole, which puts something on the ground, and then they'll put another one underneath you, and it'll send you to the other one on the ground. There's Frost Pulse, which just puts something on the ground that pulses out that you have to stay away from. There's Poison Enchant, which is like Bomberman. It just puts something on the ground, and then it spreads out in a line in either direction. And I think there's a few others that I missed, but a lot of new affixes. Elite packs feel a lot more fun. There's a lot more diversity in elite packs too. You might have several different mob types in the same yellow pack. And then the bosses you fight at the end of Nephilim Rifts have some really cool new abilities. There must be a dozen new abilities at least. I just kept seeing new ones as I was playing. The first boss I did at the end of a Nephilim Rift was in Keep Depths, and it was the Skeleton King. I have to say, it was really cool fighting the Skeleton King with a bunch of mobs around you in Keep Depths, with the Skeleton King having brand new abilities. It was like a brand new fight, and every time I did a Nephilim Rift, it was a brand new area. Even if it was the same zone I'd already did, the weather was different, the mobs were different, the abilities were different, the bosses were different. It really felt like a brand new dungeon every time. I know I sound like a fanboy right here, but I was excited about these Nephilim Rifts, and they still blew me away. My expectations were exceeded, and they were already really high. One example of the Nephilim Rifts was Keep Depths, but the weather had turned it into like a darker Keep Depths, and then there was enemies from the realm of shadow there, so it was just like dark Keep Depths. It felt like a brand new area. It was really cool. The bosses at the end of the Nephilim Rifts seem to have a really high drop chance for legendaries. My first legendary came from killing the Skeleton King. It was a Doombringer, which of course used to suck, but a lot of these legendaries that used to suck, even like Promise of Glory, are really awesome now. The Doombringer had almost 2,000 damage on it, which is a big upgrade for me. I had a bunch of int and vit, so I started using that. And then after doing a few more Nephilim Rifts, another boss dropped a legendary source for me called Meekin's Ball of Hate. It's a brand new legendary. It had 700 int, 600 bits, 6 crit chance, 10 arcane power on crit, and even though it didn't have average damage on it, it was still an upgrade for me. And in addition to that, it had a legendary affix, which made it so that Electrocute can chain to enemies that have already been hit. So I decided to put a lightning build together all around this Electrocute ability, and the viewers really wanted to see a combination with Meteor and the new skill Black Hole, which sucks enemies in. So luckily, most of the wizard skills now have runes that let you choose whatever elemental type you want. So I had Electrocute, a Lightning Meteor, a Lightning Black Hole, a Lightning Hydra, and Lightning Armor, and then I used Paralysis, so it makes it so there's a 20% chance when they get hit by lightning spells, they're stunned for 1.5 seconds, and the build worked amazing. It was kind of hard to learn at first, but then once I got the hang of it, it was really fun. I would just put down a Hydra, throw up my black hole where I wanted to do all the damage, and then just hold down right click. If I could cast Meteor, I would. If not, I would cast Electrocute. And with all that lightning damage, Paralysis procced a ton. I was actually able to stun lock single targets if I just stood there and kept casting on one target. And the build worked really well. It's pretty amazing the synergy they've worked into some of the new skill runes. The black hole would suck all the enemies in just in time for the Meteor to hit them, and then all the lightning damage would keep them stunned, so I could just keep throwing meteors down on them. It was really cool to be able to build an entire build around this one legendary and see it work. So I can't wait to try like a fire wizard or an arcane wizard, because so far lightning wizard's pretty OP. Hopefully everyone who's upset about the Archon build and critical mass build being taken away will see how much more awesome these new builds are. Sure, you don't get to just spam buttons and read a book while you play Diablo 3, but it's so much more fun. You actually have to dodge attacks and you still feel uber powerful. And with all these synergies and the fact that different legendaries enable different builds, I really think there's going to be a lot of viable builds. Some will be better than others, but you're going to be working towards those legendaries so you can keep getting a better build and a better build. And already, this is the second build I made and it felt super OP. The shrines in Nephilim Rifts are really cool too. They only last 30 seconds, but they're super powerful. For example, when I was using my lightning build, I got a shrine that reduced all of my cooldowns and resource costs, which means I could just spam black hole as much as I want to, which was super powerful and a ton of fun. I would just stack like 10 black holes in one area and everyone was getting sucked in and murdered. Or another time I got 2 shrines simultaneously, one that made me invincible and one that just killed everyone with lightning. But it adds a little bit of flavor throughout the Nephilim Rift. By the time I hit level 70, the gear was just ridiculous. The first rare weapon I found was a huge upgrade for me. It was this mace that did over 3,000 damage, reduced the resource cost of my spells by 9%, reduced my cooldowns by 7%, and then I enchanted it and removed the cooldown affix to get a socket on there, and then it was just a huge damage boost. It looks like you're going to be replacing your gear very quickly, so I wouldn't be investing too much into gear just to level in Reaper of Souls. Although it will give you an advantage in maybe the first 5 levels, you're going to be replacing it really quickly. Your gear is going to be pretty much worthless. One other thing I thought was really cool was someone linked in general chat a legendary bottomless potion, which we'd read about in the data mine information, but we weren't sure it'd make it into the game. It's at least in the beta. If you don't know what this is, it's just like in Path of Exile, where instead of needing to keep buying health potions, you just have one health potion you can use over and over again, and it gives you an additional effect. So the one I saw linked in trade chat makes it so that you regain health over time in addition to the initial effect. And one other difference with health pots and Reaper of Souls is that they all just heal 60% of your health. So there's not a certain amount of health healed. If you stack a bunch of HP, health pots aren't going to start sucking. It's just 60%, one health pot, which I thought was pretty cool. I left out a lot of details because I don't have time to touch on everything I saw in Reaper of Souls, but so far I'm thoroughly impressed. It's very high quality and I'm super addicted already. I'll be making a lot of YouTube videos in the next coming weeks discussing more specific things that I find in Reaper of Souls, and I'll also be streaming a lot. So stop by my live stream. It's linked below in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please hit subscribe if you did, and I'll have another one for you soon.